Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. Hopefully everyone can hear me. And how are people doing this fine afternoon? Let me know in the chat. Sort of let me know in the chat what's going on here. Give me a second. I've got a bit of an echo. There we go. So yeah, let me just see what we've got going on here. All right, got people saying they can hear me. Excellent. It is a fine Saturday afternoon. Hopefully, some of you guys checked out Lawyers and Dragons earlier today. But so, what I have for us today is a review of the Alec Baldwin cross complaint. And if you guys aren't familiar with sort of what's going on, there's, of course, lawsuits happening over the whole the death of Helena Hutchins. And so Alec Baldwin has just recently filed this cross complaint. So Baldwin is suing back, basically. And yeah, I've got some comments about this. I've got some thoughts. Yeah. This would be a Scotch stream, except I'm going to have to do some work later. But so I'm going to have a cola just to kind of settle down as we go here. All right. So we got looks like 260 people right now here in the sort of watching. So we'll dive right in and talk about this one, because I think that this is absolutely wild. It actually, it's not often that I read legal things and they make me angry. Most legal things I read, you're just like, oh yeah, this is good drafting or bad drafting. This is offensive. This is literally just making me super annoyed. So I see somebody saying, am I cutting out? Let me know if that is something that's going on here. All right, let's bring this up. So we've got, this is sort of the header of all of this, but they note here, Alexander R. Baldwin III, cross-complainant, and Hannah Gutierrez Reed, David Hall, Seth Kenny, PDQ Armaments and Prop LLC, and Sarah Zachary. Now, don't get me wrong. I actually think he's got a good reason to file something against these people. I think that there's more than one group of people here who should own some liability, including quite likely criminal liability. But let's have a look at how he goes about this. So, and I see somebody saying, I hope you're fully recovered from COVID in the 24-hour live stream. Congratulations on raising that much money for the hospital. Audio is good. Excellent. Yes, we raised $50,000 for the Stollery Children's Hospital, which is part of the Children's Miracle Hospital Network. So that I'm super proud of, because I think that is a good thing. I am feeling almost entirely recovered. I've still got a bit of sort of lung crud, but feeling pretty good overall. All right, so and I see somebody saying, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of code red fuckery in this. There is absolutely that. Libby is saying, isn't this a bit too soon to do? I mean, he filed this, right? This got filed. So, yeah, we're going to look at it. So, cross-complainant Alexander R. Baldwin III, by and through his attorneys, Quinn Emanuel, Urquhart, and Sullivan, so blah, 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 for his cross-complaint against all of those people I just listed, who they will collectively call the cross-defendants, alleges as following. So they're going to start off with nature of the case. And nature of the case is going to be kind of a broad overview of what all they're saying. I'm seeing somebody saying, did Runkle get enough rest? Runkle never gets enough rest. Runkle is always going on here. All right. So on October 21st, 2021, an accidental shooting took the life of cinematographer Helena Hutchins on a movie set just outside Santa Fe, New Mexico. Already you can see the language choices that are being made here. An accidental shooting took the life of Helena Hutchins. It sounds like nobody was holding that gun. Oh, wait, now they're going to go on and say Baldwin was holding the gun that shot the bullet, which discharged while rehearsing a scene after Baldwin pulled back and then released the hammer. Baldwin shot her. Like, he shot her. That is the language here. That so when they're saying, oh, he was just holding the gun that shot the gun doesn't shoot the bullet. Baldwin, yeah. And Baldwin keeps denying that he pulled the trigger. I have a video where I sort of played around with this same model of gun. I've got it in my safe. I'd bring it out here, except that there is there's a rule YouTube has about bringing firearms onto a live stream, so I can't do that. But the gun doesn't fire when you pull back and then release the hammer. It fires when you pull back and release the hammer and your finger is pulling the trigger. It doesn't take a lot of force on the trigger. It's a fairly light trigger, but your finger has to be on the trigger, pulling the trigger for this to happen. I see somebody in the chat noting Brandon Herrera did one too. Yes, he did. Um, lots of people have sort of done this one. Mine also includes that I brought an absolute newbie to shooting to the range. They had not fired a gun before. They had, in fact, only fired a squirt gun before. We went on we did like a little 5 or 10 minute, briefing on that. And she was able to not shoot anybody or not, she was able to successfully avoid all of that. So, yeah, already we see in the language here that Baldwin is basically, oh, I have no responsibility whatsoever. The gun just happened to go off and I just happened to be near it for no reason. So this tragedy occurred on a movie set, not a gun range, not a battlefield, not a location where even a remote possibility should exist that a gun would contain live ammunition. This line I agree with. There should not be live ammunition on a movie set. However, there are safety protocols, and those safety protocols assume that you should check for the possibility. So, yeah. And Becky, thank you for the new membership here. All right, so let's have a look. And I see here Timothy Bayless is noting a Colt single action army has a really light trigger when it isn't cocked. I think he pulled the trigger before ever touching the hammer. Absolutely. It is really easy, and I sort of showed this. If your finger is on the trigger, it's really easy to do both, where you pull the hammer back and your finger just gently squeezes the trigger. And if you do that, then, because you are now pulling the trigger, when you release the hammer, it will drop and the gun can fire. So, you have to be very careful about your trigger discipline to make sure that doesn't happen, which is, of course, very important. It occurred under the supervision of a professional armorer, Gutierrez Reed, and the first assistant director, Halls, who were hired to protect the actors and crew on set. This tragedy happened because live bullets were delivered to the set and loaded into the gun. Gutierrez Reed failed to check the bullets of the gun carefully. Halls failed to check the gun carefully and yet announced the gun was safe before handing it to Baldwin. And Zachary failed to disclose that Gutierrez Reed had been acting recklessly off set and was a safety risk to those around her. Is there someone else who failed to check the gun? Somebody else who might have wanted to do that before they handled it? Maybe somebody else who was present? Yeah, he's kind of leaving out that he himself failed to check the gun here. Baldwin did not know and had no reason to know any of these facts, except you are a producer on this film. You are also, the lead. So you absolutely did have reason to keep yourself aware here. I see somebody's asking, do you think that this is a knee-jerk defense to try and avoid charges and influence the court of opinion? That might be what he's trying to do. I don't think it's a great way to do it. Um, so, uh, yeah. And Brian is noting, consider supporting this channel by becoming a monthly supporter on Patreon. You can support this channel with super chats, with Patreon, with locals, all sorts of ways. Baldwin has also been in many, many movies that had guns in them. He actually brags about that in his interview with the police. It's bizarre. So, and they also say here, Gutierrez Reed was supervising this. What I understand is she wasn't actually present at the moment that this happened. Anyway, but cross defendants did. Kenny and PDQ were the principal ammunition suppliers. Gutierrez Reed was the armorer. Halls was the safety officer on set, and Zachary was the prop master. These cross defendants are professionals who owed a duty to those on set, including Baldwin, to keep the set safe. And here's the thing: anytime you pick up a gun, anytime you touch a gun, you have a duty to everyone around you to make sure that you are being safe with it and that you know what you're doing. You can't say, oh, I'm just an actor. No, you still owe a duty because you are handling a potentially lethal item. There is no excuse for this. There is no, I'm pretending that, so yeah, this is just bizarre. Everyone on set, including Baldwin, expected and trusted them to do so. And there's very good reasons why you shouldn't have, and there's very good reasons why you should have, for instance, checked. Hutchins never would have instructed Baldwin to point the gun in her direction and pull back the hammer if she thought the slightest possibility existed that it was loaded. How dare you blame Hutchins for anything there? Baldwin, who shared the same state of mind as Hutchins in that critical moment, wouldn't have done so under such conditions, except you did, dude. And you should have realized that you were doing so in an unsafe fashion. There is no, there is no working around that. There can be no doubt that others have suffered from cross defendants' negligence far more than Baldwin has. I mean, thankfully, he's realizing that, or at least acknowledging that, because if you watched his interview, he's like, oh, this is so sad for me. He's given so many different interviews where he's talking about, oh, so sad for me that but he's still going to talk about how sad it is, for him. He's going to say, that there are others who suffered more, but he's still going to go on and talk about, oh, how sad it is that he shot and killed a woman. Hutchins lost her life, and her young child lost his mother. Yes, those are tragic aspects. Producer Joel Souza was shot in the shoulder and has suffered physical and emotional pain. I wonder what he thinks about these filings. Though by no means comparable, Baldwin must live with the immense grief and the resulting emotional, physical, and financial toll caused by the fact that cross-defendants' negligent conduct, assurances, and supervision put a loaded weapon in his hand and led him, Hutchins, and everyone else on set to believe that his directed use of the weapon was safe. And he didn't bother to check at all. At all. More than anyone else on that set, Baldwin has been wrongfully viewed as the perpetrator of this tragedy. F you, buddy. Just F you. Sorry, you have a role in that, and to diminish that is gross here. By these cross claims, Baldwin seeks to clear his name and hold cross defendants accountable for their misconduct. Folks, let's see if Baldwin manages to clear his name in this. So the parties. Baldwin is an individual and a resident of New York, New York. Okay. Baldwin is informed and believes and therein alleges that Gutierrez Reed is an individual and a resident of Arizona. Gutierrez Reed was the armorer and assistant props master for the Rust production. You might be wondering, why are they talking about why are they talking about where these people live and so forth? This is just part of jurisdiction and so forth. This is stuff that has to be in there because it's a legal filing, even though it's like, why do we care? We care because this is a criminal file. Baldwin is informed and believes and therein alleges that Hall is an individual and a resident of New Mexico, and he was the first assistant director. Kenny is New Mexico, was the armor assistant and / the armor mentor for the Rust production, also supplied ammunition and prop weapons. PDQ is a new weapon limited liability company, and cross-defendant Kenny is the owner of PDQ, and which is a prop weapon and ammunition supply company. Baldwin is informed and believes, and thereon alleges that Zachary is an individual and a resident of New Mexico and was the props master for the Rust production. So this is just talking about sort of what's going on here. I see somebody saying our magical elf is looking a bit scruffy. Hopefully the facial hair is keeping him somewhat insulated from the cold winds. I'm getting really mixed reviews on the facial hair. I'm thinking maybe I should do a member stream and just do like a super chat off for like, do I keep this to the end of the month or do I shave it off right away? Just because, yeah. I see to even touch a firearm without strict supervision and / or training is absolute stupidity and or criminal stupidity. Thanks for the video, Ian. Yes, I agree. And if if your defense is, I'm just an actor, I don't know what to do, then either learn what to do or get the heck off the film set. Those are your options, because killing people should never be an option. Negligence and not knowing what you're doing with guns can get people killed, and did in this case. And that isn't to say that these other people don't have responsibility, but I mean, there's lots of responsibility to go around. All right, jurisdiction and venue. This is basically where should this case happen? So cross defendants have consented to personal jurisdiction in this court. That seems pretty definitive, right? Because the other people sued in this court, so they've already agreed that this court has jurisdiction. Venue is proper in this court as a result of its jurisdiction over the original action. Yep, that makes sense. PDQ is properly joined under Code of Civil Procedure, Section 42810B, which basically says, hey, we're going to bring these people in because there's already a case going on. So this is a fairly short jurisdiction section, and I think it's well argued. I mean, my issue is not with the jurisdiction section of this thing. So, all right. Factual allegations. Background. A. Rust is conceived. Why did they use that particular turn of phrase? Okay. Fair enough. Baldwin is an actor and producer who has appeared in over 100 films and documentaries throughout his decades-long career. Good for him. In 2018, Baldwin partnered with Sousa on a draft script for a Western movie. Cool. Baldwin had been previously in talks with Sousa to act in one of Sousa's prior films, Crown Vic, but had been unable to do so because of scheduling conflicts. The Western, Rust, and now they're actually going to get into telling us about the movie, and this is going to sound like marketing materials. And if you think that's gross, well, so do I, because I think the fact that they're still trying to push this movie through is kind of obnoxious. Tells the story of a young boy who accidentally kills a local rancher and is sentenced to hang in 1880s Kansas. So that's the punishment for accidental killings in 1880s Kansas, is it? Think on that, Mr. Baldwin. Yeah. The boy is broken out of prison by his estranged grandfather, Harland Rust, an infamous outlaw. The two flee to New Mexico on a dangerous journey through an unforgiving landscape, running from a U.S. Marshal and bounty hunter on their tail and forming a close bond along the way. Oh, isn't that how, heartwarming that you are, you know, yeah. Although Baldwin was not specifically looking to film a Western, he was attracted to the Rust project because it offered an opportunity to work with Sousa on something Baldwin had increasingly become interested in, making films in which dialogue takes a backseat to cinematography, films in which the camera tells the story. Are you telling us that you can't act? Or, I don't know. All right. Baldwin collaborated with Sousa on the writing of the Rust script and was given a story by credit for his work. Cool. All of this is basically just, telling us the film plot, and this sounds like marketing here. Rust production obtains, they don't actually give us the ending, which is interesting. They give us that there's a close bond, but I'm guessing, spoiler alert, that Harlan Rust sacrifices himself nobly to save the kid. There, I just saved you, I guess $20 nowadays. Throughout 2019 to 2021, Baldwin engaged in discussions with Sousa and Rust's team of producers, moving Rust forward from concept to execution. Rust had 6 credited producers, and you'll notice the last one is Baldwin. So he is a producer on this film, which suggests he might have some responsibilities in some fashion. I see people noting this seems like a commercial for Alec Baldwin in the film, like it was pulled from his IMDb page. Doesn't it, though? And I'm going to tell you, a lot of this filing seems like it's intended as a PR move and as a move to try to bully the prosecutors. I hope it blows up in his face, because I think it should. And I see people saying this movie is about an accidental killing. What the actual F? Yes. Why are they still going forward with this movie that includes as a major plot point an accidental killing when there was an accidental killing on the thing? And people are going to say, oh, Runkle says it's an accident. No kidding. It's an accident. But just because it's an accident doesn't mean that it can't attract civil liability and criminal liability. There's all sorts of accidents that can be criminal. If you decide to drink an entire bottle of scotch and get in your car and you end up running over, 12 nuns, that's an accident. You probably didn't mean to run over all those nuns. You didn't have anything in particular against the nuns, but you're still going to go to jail for running over the nuns. And that is appropriate and expected. All right. So Smith, individually and through his production company, Rust Movie Productions, was primarily responsible for Rust's day-to-day operations. Smith and the other producers pitched Rust to investors, secured financing, and set the budget for the film. Smith and his associate, Gabriel Pickle, hired the crew for Rust. And I'm wondering if it's pronounced Pickle or Pikel, or I suspect it's just Pickle. Baldwin's only involvement in Rust's finances was his forfeiture of his own fees that he gave back to the production to enhance the budget. Baldwin's total compensation package, starring and producing, was set at $250,000. However, Baldwin gave back $100,000 as an investment, and he'd offered an additional $37,500 from his fees. Now, I'm guessing he's probably getting a lot more on the back end of things rather than just as his payment, but I don't know for certain. And honestly, how much he got paid is really not the question here. On September 13th, 2019, Nigam wrote to Baldwin's office that he was checking on the status of the script, as I have several financing avenues that are waiting on it. While the other producers handled financing and budget matters for the film, Baldwin was consulted about the creative aspects of Rust's marketing, such as the artwork for the teaser poster and the preparation of a video promotion for the Cannes Film Festival. Baldwin also worked closely with Sousa on casting decisions, reaching out to other actors regarding taking roles in Rust. As filming neared, Baldwin received information and updates about basic logistical matters such as the schedule and location for filming. So basically, what he's going to say is that he heard about everything that was going on except all the fuckery. He's going to actually deny all of that there. I see how many Jensen Ackles fans are here. I want to go over the Jensen Ackles interview at some point because I am thinking that Jensen Ackles, his interview has a little bit of spice to it that I appreciated. So, all right. For example, on August 31st, 2021, Baldwin's office received an email from producer Winterstern regarding filming dates and locations. So he wrote, per the call earlier, production has reconfirmed to me the shooting dates, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to skip over all of this. I will note when he starts putting his email communications into the thing like this, what he's now doing, or what he has done here, is he's very clearly made his entire emails and text communications and everything like that a relevant issue that he's going to have to disclose. And if it turns out that he got an inkling that there was a whisper to him about any of these issues, then that's going to contradict his filings here. And yeah. I see, what is it? Kathy Brewer saying, as a range instructor, nobody touches a weapon without basic safety instructions. Abso-freaking-lutely. When I bring somebody to the range, before they touch a gun, I go over how they check the gun, how they operate the gun, the safety rules about what you do with the gun, like don't point it at people, check, and I make sure that they are competent in that sense. And then, they get to handle the unloaded gun, which we will check together, and we go through it again with that, and then we'll go through, because you don't actually want to, you don't want to result in any sort of accidents. And I have taken literally dozens of people who've never shot before to the range, and I can tell you that none of them have killed anybody. Yay! Yeah. So when a film's budget allows, Baldwin usually brings along his own group of professionals with whom he has worked frequently. However, when Baldwin is involved in films with smaller budgets, like Rust, he makes every effort to sacrifice some of the ordinary accommodations in his contract to help the budgeting of the film. So, in other words, he helped them cut budgetary corners. That's how we can read that one. In these circumstances, he does not have does not have authority to choose the crew or otherwise direct the non-creative aspects of the film. Baldwin's correspondence regarding Rust established that he was introduced to crew members shortly before filming began and did not play a role in their hiring. So once again, Baldwin has no responsibility whatsoever, just happened to be there. For example, Baldwin was introduced to the head of Rust's makeup department, Stacey Lockhart, just weeks before filming began. So, yeah, we'll just skip over. And, said introduced to the head just weeks before filming began, but they note that, looking forward to working with Alec again, which seems to contradict what he just said about just being introduced to her weeks before filming began, because she'd worked with him before. Baldwin was introduced to Rust's costume designer, Therese Davis, in August 2021. So there's some additional, discussion of that. And, skipping over all of this, so they put a lot of email correspondence in there and a lot of email addresses there and so forth. Email correspondence with Davis further shows that Baldwin affirmatively requested gun training by the crew member responsible for firearms on the Rust set long before filming began. Cool. Did he follow up on that? Did he make sure it happened? In a September 12th, 2021 email, Davis noted to Baldwin's assistant that he wanted me to ask you to find out who's in charge of the guns on this movie and to get him some shooting lessons. On information and belief, Rust's armorer Gutierrez Reed had not yet been hired. As Baldwin's request to find out who's in charge of the guns on this movie indicates, he was not involved in Gutierrez Reed's hiring and was unaware that the film had not yet hired an armorer. It also demonstrates that even after 42 years in the film business, Baldwin takes safety seriously and wanted to ensure he received the safety training available on the Rust set. No, you freaking don't. No, you no, you don't take safety seriously because you didn't follow the follow the basics on this. So there's another discussion there saying he wanted me to ask you to find out who's in charge of the guns on this movie and to get him some shooting lessons. He also mentioned that whoever is in charge of gun belts, I believe that is props, should research to see if they had shoulder holsters because he would prefer that to a big waist belt. So yeah, he wanted the shoulder holster, which itself is kind of a safety issue, but yeah. So Jensen is talking about the uncivil law says there's a cross complaint. Well, yes, this is Alec Baldwin suing over this, which is, oh my God. All right. So yeah. Consistent with Baldwin's actual involvement with the film, his agreement with Rust Movie Productions makes clear that Baldwin and his company, Eldorado Pictures, would have only a creative role in the Rust production. For example, Section 6 of the contract gives Eldorado Pictures a tie break on all creative decisions. Further, Section 6 states that Rust Movie Productions shall have final determination with respect to any creative decision that would result in a material increase in the budget, like, say, hiring a better armorer. Yeah, indicating that the budget for Rust was exclusively within the control of Rust Movie Productions and LLC and Smith, not Baldwin. Yeah, I mean, yes and no. You've always got the right to walk off or to not take the gun into your hand. Because personally, I would not have handled the gun in the way he did. In addition, Section 3 of the producer agreement provides that Baldwin may not engage the services and/or facilities of any third party in connection with Rust without Rust Movie Productions LLC's prior written consent in each instance, indicating that Baldwin had no independent authority to make hiring decisions on Rust. Okay. The hiring of Gutierrez Reed. Baldwin had no role in hiring Gutierrez Reed, which isn't super relevant here. He didn't know she was being considered as the armorer and didn't recommend her or weigh in on her hiring. Again, this is not the big, the big issue here. I see any other normal citizen would have been charged long ago. He's responsible, and I'll never change my mind. I think that he actually sells the point that he's responsible here. Didn't several armorers turn down the job, citing that the production didn't have the budget to be safe? I mean, that's certainly going to end up being something that gets discussed because now he's made all of those communications relevant here. Instead, Gutierrez Reed had reached out to Kenny to ask whether he knew of any available armorer jobs. Kenny connected her with Zachary, who then passed her name along to Rust production managers, who ultimately hired her. All right, let's stop and review some super chats here. Chris Smith Curry, thank you for the $10 for your anxiety by the time this is done. Anxiety is going to be one thing. Rage is going to be another. So Mandalore Wise, thank you very much for the $20. Something that may come up later if my recollection is correct. I remember seeing that the armor basically got demoted as a cost-saving measure, meaning she was no longer expected to do safety checks. Yes, we did go over that in some previous videos, and she absolutely was being given... She was basically told that she had limited hours for armor work and that the rest of her time needed to be spent on prop work. And so she wasn't able to sort of deal with all of that. So that is an issue. If that's the storyline, this absolutely should be shelved, regardless of all this being in poor taste. Right? If the storyline involves an accidental killing, how disgusting is that they're running forward with this? Equality, thank you for the $5. In his interrogation, he went back and forth with, I'm so experienced and I have no idea how this works. Has he decided which one to go with now? I think he's going to go with, I have no idea what's going on and I don't know why I'm here. But he does at the same time talk about, I've been doing this for 42 years without killing anybody. I'm sorry, you go 42 years without killing anybody and then you kill somebody, you are a killer. Like, that's the way that works. Um, First rule of firearms, treat them as if they are loaded. Second rule, rule number 1. Yes. The whole thing of all of that. Yeah. Uncivil law. I'm sorry, the plot now includes an accidental killing. You missed this, I'm guessing, uncivil. We'll just sort of bop right up here just so that I can show show this part to uncivil again here. Just to talk about the plot line. So this is just a recap here. The Western, Rust, tells the story of a young boy who accidentally kills a local rancher and is sentenced to hang in 1880s Kansas. That's the plot line, uncivil, and people who just showed up here. So, yeah. And Emma Z, thank you very much for the gifted memberships there. Yeah, isn't that absolutely horrifying that they've decided, you know what, let's go ahead with this movie that includes as a major plot point an accidental killing where there was an accidental killing. Oh, yeah. All right, so on to the procurement of the ammunition and prop weapons. Zachary and Gutierrez Reed were responsible for sourcing and procuring the weapons and ammunition used on the Rust set. And you know what? I agree that Baldwin would have had no part in this. So that's not, who cares? Kenny and his company PDQ were the primary weapons and ammunition supplier for Rust. And PDQ should absolutely also be on the hook here. Don't get me wrong. Like, people are saying, oh, don't you think it's this person's fault? Or don't you think it's that person's fault? There's lots of fault to go around, right? If you've got 10 people at a job site and they're supposed to build a shed in the course of a week, and you come back and there's no shed and there's nobody, then it's not just like, oh, which person's fault is it? It's like none of the people built the shed. So, yeah. All right. In early October 2021, Zachary and Gutierrez Reed met with Kenny to collect the prop weapons and dummy ammunition to be used on Rust. Police photos of Kenny's business, PDQ, show what Zachary and Gutierrez Reed would have encountered on their visit that should have put them on notice of serious safety concerns. I agree with this. I 100% agree with this one because this is the premises that they're finding. So we can see out here, this looks like, a back lot, boxes and crap piled up. I mean, maybe that's just where he stores his, recycling. This one might not be such a big deal. But we see, this looks like sort of a station with gun cases and weapons and so forth. And they're just kind of laying there. These pictures don't look... I went and visited Movie Armaments Group in Toronto, which is a film armor. And I can tell you that their facility looks super clean. It is super organized. There is not a single round of loose anything. Everything is on shelves. It's racked up. Everything is in its proper place. They've got displays for stuff that is, on display. They've got everything is nice and organized. This does not look like Movie Armaments Group's thing. What this looks like the pictures that I get of when they search a drug dealer's house. So, yeah. Ammunition, much of it unlabeled, was strewn throughout the premises. And so you see, this box where there's kind of loose brass, some ballistol. Those look like empty shotgun shell casings, cardboard boxes, a loose bag of ammunition. Live ammunition and dummy rounds were stored haphazardly. I mean, if this is in one consistent box, that's not super haphazard, but it looks like stuff is stored in multiple places. This isn't too bad. Some of it. This looks like it's got some corrosion going on. That's not great. This looks like it's a box of loose brass with what appears to be a live .22 caliber cartridge sitting in it. That's not ideal. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm not super happy with what I'm seeing here in terms of organization and so forth. Um, did that say live ammo? Yes. Why is live ammo being stored on the premises of a, like, I'm sorry, if I was doing film supply, um, I would have separate, things, and live ammo would never make it onto my facility. So yeah. I see somebody saying, can the husband sue to shut the movie down? They've actually settled, and the husband is now supporting the production of the movie. I'm guessing he got paid a freak ton of money, because Baldwin is trying to save his career. You see, ammunition should not be stored like Legos. Uh, yeah. Uncivil is saying, I could have sworn Runkle just said there was live ammo being stored on site. This is at the PDQ inventory site, so it's not the Rust production, but as we'll see, live ammunition makes it to the Rust production. And I see somebody saying, whoops, dude, my art supply is organized better than that, and I'm not that organized. I have attention deficit, and my leatherworking supplies are better stored than that. I see that's not a 22. It has a groove on the rim. Looks like 38. I don't know. That one looks... I'm not sure. I do see the groove there, though, so I'm not sure what that is. All right. As professional suppliers of dummy and blank ammunition, Kenny and PDQ were required to carefully store, segregate, label, and organize ammunition to ensure that live ammunition did not become intermingled with dummy and blank rounds. I agree with this 100%. He's right on. Like, this is the thing, is this is not one of these complaints where I'm going to be saying Baldwin is wrong about all of this. The thing that is wrong is that Baldwin manages to leave out his own responsibility throughout this. They failed to do so. Instead, Kenny and PDQ stored inventory without proper labels, segregation, or organization. Their cavalier disregard for proper separation between live and dummy ammunition was one of the factors that led to the presence of live ammunition on the set of Rust. And in fact, this is shocking and horrifying, and what the hell? According to Kenny's insurance company, Farmers Insurance Exchange, after Mr. Kenny and his business tendered their defense to farmers in May 2022, Mr. Kenny's attorney suggested that PDQ Arm and Prop had operated from the property. Specifically, he said Mr. Kenny communicated his willingness to be part of the Rust production, negotiated the terms of that participation, sent the gun and ammunition involved in the incident, and sent invoices for that gun and ammunition from the property. Kenny and PDQ are bound by their lawyers' admissions that they supplied the gun and ammunition involved in this incident. So basically, this point is saying, hey, they already agreed that this was what was going on, and so they can't back out of that. And I see somebody saying, wait a minute, so that was Seth's place? Yes. This is not what an armorer's place should look like at all. I see so far this is a big distraction to make Alec Baldwin look innocent. I mean, Alec Baldwin is able to point to other people are also responsible. It's just a question of, of whether he is himself also responsible. The FBI analyzed a substantial amount of ammunition that was collected from the Rust set and found dozens of live cartridges. For example, item 31 alone contained 50 live cartridges. So they indicate here, a whole bunch of live cartridges that were found. And yeah, I mean, there should never be a single live cartridge that makes it onto a movie set. And tons of them were there. And somebody says, was he aware of the poor safety? He is going to say, no, I'm going to show that he either was aware or should have known. And you say then it would be reasonable to be extra careful. But I actually say it goes a little further than that. There was reasons to just shut everything down. S. Moore is saying there are less than 75 likes for us all. Come on, let's help Runkle out. Yes, if you guys get a chance, if you could do the sort of the YouTube things of hitting the like button, Commenting in the chat helps. All of this stuff sort of helps push up the algorithm here because, yeah. The results clearly show that live ammunition ended up on the Rust prop cart. And we have here, I mean, that looks live, although we can't actually see the primer end. But yeah, it also ended up in the bandolier worn by Baldwin. Interesting. Who would have been able to investigate that bandolier? Oh, right. Might Baldwin have been able to see that bandolier and to notice that? I mean, this seems like a place where, because this is quite plainly live ammunition that is on that bandolier. Maybe that, is something that should check or should be checked there. So, yeah. All right. So they say the FBI report on this incident shows multiple cartridges of live ammunition seized on the premises of PDQ during the execution of a search warrant, and that ammunition was commingled on the premises. What the actual hell? Kenny also submitted cartridges to the police that contained live ammunition. As a prop supplier, Kenny and PDQ should not have stored live ammunition on the same disorganized premises, let alone commingled it. I agree with that entirely. Right? This Seth Kenny should also be going to jail. From what, if assuming that all of these allegations are accurate, this is messed up. Baldwin arrives on the Rust set, receives gun safety training, and begins filming. And here's the thing. If I am sitting there, if I'm running a film and I find out that a single live cartridge has been sent by the supplier of or dummy rounds mixed in, we are stopping everything. We are doing a manual inventory of every cartridge, or we're throwing out every cartridge, one or the other. But there's no leaving this out. This is crazy making. So Baldwin arrives on the Rust set, receives gun safety training, and begins filming. So on Monday, October 11th, 2021, Baldwin arrived on the set of Rust at the Bonanza Creek Ranch in Bonanza City, New Mexico, several miles southwest of Santa Fe. The day after he arrived, Baldwin had training with Gutierrez Reed, Rust's armor. Training lasted around 90 minutes. Okay, fair. During the session, Gutierrez Reed reminded Baldwin of gun safety measures he had learned at substantially similar gun trainings throughout his career, such as always putting the gun down immediately once cut is called, and not to force the gun if it jams. Okay, good practice. But Gutierrez Reed did not instruct Baldwin to check the gun himself. This is going to be a half-truth. We're going to see some half-truth going on right here. In fact, she told Baldwin that it was her job to check the gun, not his. Similarly, Baldwin believed, based on prior gun safety training he received on movie sets, that actors should not unilaterally check guns for live ammunition. If actors want to check a gun for their own peace of mind, they should check the gun only with the armorer closely supervising the process. Now, I can tell you, I've spoken to at least a half dozen armorers, and they all indicated that, in fact, their practice is that every time an actor is handed a gun, that they should, that the armorer and the talent should be checking the gun together. And basically that the actor should be going over things with the gun or with the armor. These two people together should be going over it and saying, okay, let's check this and let's make sure, so that you and I both know that it's clear. And in fact, that if anyone else wants to be involved in that, anyone else around, they can. But, it's the actor should always be being shown that the gun is in fact clear. Baldwin brags that he's been on movie sets dealing with guns and so forth for 42 years. So he should have done that. He should have known. He should have known that that's the practice. And quite frankly, he should know that he only takes a gun from the armorer and not from any other person. That is how this works. So in other words, actors may jointly inspect a gun with the armorer, but never on their own. Yes, but they should always inspect the gun with the armor. And if they're not inspecting the gun with the armor, they should not hold it in their hand. They should not be willing to take it. And I see people saying I should discuss Jensen's interview. He does discuss these details. I want to go over that one, specifically. I have watched Jensen's interview. Jensen contradicts a bunch of this. So someone hands you a gun and tells you it isn't loaded, so you do what? I'd check it anyway. But he's a star, so yeah, absolutely. Somebody at the gun range says, hey, do you want to see my gun, and hands it over. The first thing I am doing is checking it. And in fact, I actually usually would want to see them hold the slide open to show me that it's empty before I'm even willing to take it. So that's sort of a key thing there. All right. So, yeah. Baldwin had been told during prior gun safety trainings that a gun must be rechecked and cleared by the armor if the actor unilaterally checks the gun without the armor's supervision. Yes, you shouldn't be messing with the gun without the armor present, but you should also be insisting that you are aware of what the status of the gun is, not just by hearing somebody shout it, but by actually, by actually looking at it and checking it. Baldwin followed Gutierrez-Reed's instructions during the gun safety training and throughout his time on the Rust set. I don't think that this is going to turn out to be true, because when we hear like Jensen Ackles, his interview, he seems to contradict this. So, yeah. Yeah, and I see somebody saying, the way I hand over a firearm is the action locked open with the magazine being passed separately. Yep. Somebody handing a firearm over to me, I want to see that it's empty before I take it. Soon after arriving on set, Baldwin had dinner with Hutchins, Rust's cinematographer or director of photography, and Souza, Rust's director. At dinner, they discussed their creative vision for the film. They had a conversation about how to tell the story of Rust through the camera, taking advantage of the vast, quiet expanses of desert at their disposal. Hutchins, Baldwin, and Souza believed that they were onto something special, a cinematic effort highlighting the beautiful environment of New Mexico. They did not discuss safety at that dinner, and at no point did Baldwin discuss gun safety with anyone beyond Gutierrez-Reed, Zachary, Nicole Montoya, and Halls. Okay. All right. From the moment Baldwin arrived, the morale on the set and the camaraderie of the crew was apparent. Everyone seemed to be enjoying the experience. Isn't it amazing how much fun you can have before somebody gets shot to death? After, not so much. After, it's kind of a buzzkill. And I kind of feel like, this is why we put so much effort into safety. Like, yeah. Rust filming was proceeding smoothly. Baldwin believed that the cast and crew had high morale and had formed a sense of camaraderie and a joint belief in the film's promise. As the film's key second assistant director wrote in an email to the cast on October 1st, 2021, the day Baldwin arrived on set, "What an incredible first week. Thank you guys for all your incredible patience as we've worked through schedule changes and all the wonderful things that get a movie made. Can't wait for this week." Again, it's really great, the experience of not getting shot to death. So, during his time at Bonanza Creek Ranch, Baldwin never personally observed, was informed of, or became aware of any safety issues on Rust set. I just had my head all the way in the sand. I didn't know a damn thing. And here's the fun part is that if they can, if once a hole gets blown into that, yeah. And I see somebody noting good morale. No, there wasn't. We already know there were problems. Yeah, I mean, the morale was so good that people walked off the set. Yeah, that's not good morale. So saying, imagine the armor purposely put a live round in. Meanwhile, everyone wants to blame the actor. First of all, there is no evidence that the armor purposefully put a live round in. But the second thing is that as the actor, You should be in a situation where even if the armorer was purposefully putting a live round in, you are checking it with the armorer, and you can go, "Hey, what the hell is that?" You should be confident that you have checked this over with the armorer themselves, and it should not be possible for the armorer to sneak a live round in without you noticing. Especially because if it's a single action army, you could pull the cylinder pin to check all chambers, or just use the loading gate with the revolver at half cock. Yep, I actually showed this in that other video where you can actually, you put it in half cock and you can just do a quick check. It takes literally like a few seconds. That's how long it takes to not kill anybody, is a few seconds of check. So, yeah. All right. Late in the day of October 20th, as production was wrapping, Baldwin had a brief conversation with Lane Looper, a camera assistant on the Rust crew. Looper thanked Baldwin for support on social media of IATSE, which had been threatening a strike. Baldwin told Looper that if IATSE did indeed go on strike, Screen Actors Guild would strike in solidarity. Isn't that special? During their conversation, Looper told Baldwin that the set of Rust had some problems. The only problem that Looper mentioned, however, was his desire for better hotel rooms for his team. Looper never mentioned any issues regarding gun safety. Well, we're going to hear from Looper as to whether or not that is actually accurate, because, yeah. So we'll see. Baldwin asked Looper if he would be on set the following day and said they could continue to speak about the hotel issue then. Baldwin intended to consider the matter, and if he agreed that different hotel rooms were needed for Looper's camera crew, was prepared once again to pay for them out of his own compensation. It's interesting, we'll see on that one. However, Looper and his team later decided to quit the Rust crew. And of course, he never asks any questions about why that would happen. He's a producer and he's just like, oh, hey, these guys just left. And what a mystery. I have no questions. Bull pucky. All right. The events of October 21st, 2021. On October 21st, 2021, the Rust cast and crew were preparing to rehearse a scene in the small church at Bonanza Creek Ranch. In the scene, Baldwin's character, Harland Rust, takes cover in the church after a shootout. The scene involves a close-up view of a firearm, a gun held by Rust that he's required to cock before a shootout begins, of shotguns booming, and Colts exploding. The scene unfolds as follows, with bracketed ellipses to shorten the script. So they're actually going to give us a little piece of the script. So that sounds like marketing, doesn't it? Like, not so much like a legal filing, but it sounds like, and I see Uncivil says, don't read this part, spoilers. I mean, we're going to have to go through it. It is going to have some spoilers, but are you really planning to go see this movie at this point? I'm not. So interior of church, same. Lucas hauls Rust in. They collapse in a pew. Lucas propping him back up. Rust groaning in pain, breath labored. Lucas, I'm going to find some help. Rust, don't need no damn help. Lucas, you're going to die if I don't. Blood already pooling under the pew. I'll go find someone. Just wait here. Lucas comes out, goes looking for help. Wood and Bass joined out on the porch now by the LaFontaines and Reed and Miller, checking weapons, tying down holsters. So this is probably the key moment here. All right. A door opens quietly. Wood and Bass enter. Colts level. Rust and a pew up ahead. Back to them. Wood and Bass fanning out. Wood, Harland Rust. He doesn't answer, doesn't move, nothing. Want you to stand up nice and slow. Toss any weapons you got. Rust is still, hand moving almost unnoticeably, slips a Colt from its holster. Wood advancing slowly. Jack! Reed and Miller come in the front, rifles up, fanning slowly. Ain't no iteration you walk out of this church less'n you stand up slow and toss them guns. Rust's Colt cocked quietly now. Wood and his men spin. All Rust needs. Colts exploding. So, yeah, and I see people saying, as a writer, I have to say this is awful writing. Doesn't it feel kind of, yep. And I feel like when we're talking about spoilers, the big spoiler of this movie is Alec Baldwin killed a person. That spoils the movie for me. So, uh, see, whose idea was it to include a scene like that in the filing? It just brings to mind visuals of how horrible the accident must have been. Please tell me a lawyer would have had more brains. Well, a lawyer was involved, and yeah, this feels like a marketing moment. I see that's the script. Really bad dialogue. Yeah, doesn't it feel just kind of stupid? When he says like that the filming is like the cinematography is going to be the major thing, well, it's because the dialogue seems to suck. Um, so I guess the cinematography is going to have to do the heavy lifting on this because the dialogue certainly can't. All right, let's go through. We've got a few super chats here. I don't understand why this movie is still being made. I don't know either, other than money and Alec Baldwin's ego and his need to try to save his career. How I religiously label and organize my art room because if I don't, my attention deficit would run rampant. I mean, I have attention deficit. I have, a mess, sort of going on here, but I'm not providing anybody with ammunition, and my ammunition is organized, right? Like, yeah. Lord Jesus Christ himself could hand me a gun and tell me it's unloaded, and you know what the first thing I'm going to do is drop the mag and check the chamber. Yeah, absolutely. I have been handed firearms by people who are like firearm experts, and the first thing I do is check. And you know what? Precisely none of them have been pissed. Not one ever. When I'm like, hey, I'm checking this out, and Ian McCullum, Gun Jesus of Forgotten Weapons, was at a shooting competition I was at. And, he is a fantastic guy. If you ever get a chance to meet him, I recommend doing so. But, he was shooting an interesting French rifle and he was letting people sort of hold it. And every time he was passing it to somebody, he was opening it up, showing them that it was empty, and then passing it to them. And I mean, there's like a whole bunch of people who want to hold this rifle and, see how it feels. And every time he's showing them that it's empty. It's not like anybody loaded it in this intervening time where we're all sitting there, watching this rifle. It's just, this is being safe. That's what being safe looks like. So, yeah. And Gun Jesus doesn't, mind if you're like, is like, hey, check this out. Like, this is so terrible. Makes me wonder if movie sets had more safety regulations, if this would make a difference. Yes, I mean OSHA. I mean, this is like basic safety issues. See, I'd be more pissed if they didn't check it. Yeah, I mean, I'm like, check over. I want to make sure that people, if I'm handing them a gun, that they know enough to check it. And I see, yep, Runkle, you were right. Baldwin's character sacrifices himself. Yep, I mean, even without reading this script, you know where that's going, right? You know where this is going. So, yeah. And I see, ain't no iteration where I pay to see this movie. Yeah. I mean, guys, if you really want to see this movie, wait 6 months and then take an airplane ride, like get on a plane. And this movie will probably be playing on the plane. That's how you see this one if you want to. So on the morning of October 21st, Hutchins, Souza, and Baldwin convened in the church to discuss how to film an insert shot of the gun. This is essentially a close-up focused on the gun. When the cast and crew broke for lunch, Russ Armour, Gutierrez Reed took the gun from Baldwin that he'd been holding in rehearsals. I mean, absolutely, the gun should be not in the possession of the, of the talent between, lunch and so forth. It should be locked up. Gutierrez Reed relieved Baldwin of the weapon most of the time. At other times, however, due to space limitations on set, Gutierrez Reed was asked to clear the set after checking the weapons. First of all, this is one of those things that should be a what the hell. If you don't have space to properly secure the guns, then this is a what the hell is going on. In Gutierrez Reed's absence, Baldwin was relieved of the weapons by Halls. This is another thing that should be massive red flags. There is no substitute for the armor. These people are not interchangeable. And yeah, and Russ, assistant director, who's also responsible for handling guns on set. Alec Baldwin has been on movies for 42 years, which is as long as I have been alive. And there is nobody else who should be doing these tasks other than the armor, certainly not the assistant director. And Baldwin should have known that this is super sketch, that this is super, what the hell. So this is one of those things that should be raising red flags as to there are major safety problems on this set, not this is just okay stuff. So, yeah, I see. If I want to get money to the family, I'll just send a $15 check addressed to her child rather than spend it on a movie ticket to this film. Yep. So, yeah. No shade, but I noticed you don't wear a poppy. Is there a reason? It is November 12th right now. So, that said, I could not get a poppy. I haven't been able to find one. I did make a donation. So, that's sort of the major aspect, but not wearing a poppy on the 12th because the 11th has passed. And I don't think I did any filming yesterday. Oh, wait, no, I was on Friday Night Frenzy and I wasn't wearing, but yeah. On October 21st, I don't know why it's so difficult to find a poppy these days, but it is. There wasn't any at my local, shopping centers. There wasn't any all sorts of places. All right. I think more should be made of the fact that Alec Baldwin didn't go to the shooting/gun safety meeting that the firearms person planned. I think he said that he did, and it took 90 minutes. So we'll have to see there. I see here also, it all comes back to cutting costs, people doubling up on job duties. Yes, absolutely that. So, yeah. All right. So, unbeknownst to Baldwin, a chain of mistakes and missteps by cross-defendants had already been set in motion that would lead to the tragic loss of Hutchins' life that afternoon. Except that there were plenty of signs that there were mistakes and missteps that should have actually, asked you to make some further inquiries. All right. The key responsibility of the armor and props master is to ensure that the security and safety of the gun, ammunition, or props, respectively, used on set. On the morning of October 21st, Zachary and Gutierrez Reed arrived on the Rust set to find that a full box of dummy ammunition had mysteriously appeared. The box had markings similar to those used by Kenny and PDQ to denote dummy ammunition. This is the kind of thing that should immediately stop production. Like, ammunition just mysteriously showing up somewhere should be like, stop everything. Something has gone wrong. This is like if you get in your car and it is mysteriously on fire. Do you go, oh yeah, I'm just going to drive this to work? Or do you say, maybe I should put out the fire? Like, yeah. Zachary knew about Gutierrez Reed misplacing things and mixing them up, yet as far as Baldwin is aware, made no complaints to the production company or others on the set. This is another thing where everybody should be, everything should be stopped and like, what the hell? Crew members have also since reported that Gutierrez Reed took the prop guns to a shooting range where she loaded them with live ammunition and did target practice. Again, this is like Gutierrez Reed, if all of these things are accurate, should be in jail. Zachary, if these things are accurate, should be in jail. Kenny, if these things are accurate, should be in jail. Baldwin, if these things are accurate, should be in jail. So, and then there's an email from Weston Brownlee to Sarah Zachary saying, hey, you may know this and it's hearsay, but I'm telling you this just because it's info you should have, especially given the investigation. I just heard from someone claiming they know the driver of your prop truck that the armorer allegedly went out target shooting last night with the gun Alec had and then fired. There's your box of rounds you said you didn't know where they came from. Given what you told me about the armorer misplacing things and mixing them up, There's the live rounds right there. I would disclose that to the police if that's not info you already knew. Yeah. Gutierrez Reed professes to have no knowledge as to the origin of this ammunition. Then why the hell wasn't it thrown out? Like, if mystery ammunition just shows up somewhere, you don't shoot it. Yeah. If I find ammunition at the gun range, like if somebody leaves behind a box of ammunition, I'm not like, oh, hey, free ammo, I'm just going to shoot this. It's like, no, I'm not touching this because I don't know what it is, right? I don't know if it's somebody's hot loads. I don't know if it's whatever. Chat, hot load means too much powder. Not what you're thinking. This is not like a stacks thing. So, yeah. All right. As Gutierrez Reed stated in her complaint against Kenny, she was happy that they had a full box of dummy rounds to work with, and because Sarah's prop manager had brought dummy boxes to the set and passed as part of her duties, Gutierrez Reed didn't think any more of it at the time. What the hell? Like, if she is the armor, she should be the only person handling dummy ammo or any ammo on set, as well as any firearms on set. Only person. So yeah. I see. Don't end up like Scott from Kentucky Ballistics. He had a firearm explode and nearly died. That was ridiculous. So regardless, Gutierrez Reed and Zachary maintained a workspace that was as recklessly disorganized as PDQ. Gee, were you ever able to observe them being disorganized? Because if you were able to observe them being disorganized and you didn't, look at this, what the hell? So, yeah. I see lots of dummies there, but not the ammo. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. Somebody's saying I found EDB because I was searching for more information on the Rush shooting. The next video YouTube rolled out was Legal Bites on Civil and Nate the Lawyer discussing same. Not sure I would have found y'all otherwise. Yep. Yeah. Never shoot unknown origins of ammunition. Yep. You find random ammunition around, you don't pick it up and shoot it. This is unreal. Police photos taken after the shooting show that boxes of ammunition were stored in the prop truck and prop cart, and loose ammunition was found all over the place. Gee, is there somebody who might have had an opportunity to notice this? Mr. Baldwin. So we see this picture here, with just ammunition just sitting there. Now you see these crimped ends. You see how those ends are, sort of crimped. Those would be, some form of blank to, loaded to like half power or quarter power or whatever else. There's this bucket that here where we see blanks and what looks like a live cartridge together. Now, the only circumstance I could see where you might have blanks and live cartridges together would be a situation where you might have like a disposal bin. But the sort of standard I'd want for a disposal bin, at least the way I've seen them on various ranges, is you get like an old propane tank and you take out the stem and you put a pipe in it. So basically those that creates a thing that is sort of pressurized and where it's not going to something's not going to be able to get out in terms of if it were to go off in there. But it also creates a one-way opening where you drop something into it and you can't fish it back out. And that's intentional. Like you see these at ranges as disposal bins, and they're designed that way so that you can't go fish stuff out afterwards if you want, if somebody wants to be unsafe. I wouldn't have it as a bucket. I want it to be something where once it goes in, it stays in, because that's how you might dispose of, I don't know what's going on with this, into the disposal bucket, like into this disposal tank. Yeah. So I see, what is it? Can't fit your hand back in. Exactly. So yeah, I see people saying that these are snake cartridges. They wouldn't be. These like snake cartridges are loaded with shot. These would just be dummies. Somebody noted Kentucky Ballistics had a 50 caliber rifle detonate, lacerating his jugular. He saved his life by using his thumb to apply pressure to it. Yep. It is, yeah. Can they be easily recognized as one way or the other, blank versus live? I mean, there are all sorts of ways that these things are designed to make them easy to recognize. I have some film dummies, and, I've got a video on this where I brought a person who has no firearm experience or training or anything else. I went over that, went over the details with them. And, in just a very short time, they were able to tell the difference between live cartridges and dummy cartridges when I mixed them together in like the worst case scenario, shuffling them together. They were able to do this blindfolded. Like, this is not expertise that is required. This is just basic stuff. So similar to the bins they use for medical needles. Exactly the same idea, right? You don't want people fishing stuff out. You don't want stuff falling out of it. You want it to be a situation where you put something in and it goes away. That's the only time where you'd want this kind of mixed ammunition, is in that kind of disposal container. Loose ammunition was found in the prop truck. And, more pictures here. Again, this is stuff that should be shutting down everything. Loose ammunition was found in the prop cart. Again, this is something that he might have been able to see and is just horrifying. Loose ammunition was found in bags. Now, this looks like it's a bag. This is Mary Kay. But we see this looks like it's all, that this is all. No. Some of this might be actual live ammunition, but it looks like this is dummies, but I can't tell if there's some live in there or not, just because it's not a clear picture. Storing ammunition in an organized manner offers an important layer of security that is required of the armorer profession. By leaving loose ammunition around the set and prop areas, Gutierrez, Reed, and Zachary had no way of knowing where each piece of ammunition used in the prop guns originated. Now, Gutierrez Reed had given previous comments saying that she was walking around with these bags and had this stuff on hand. So Baldwin would have been able to see that and would have been able to notice that and ought to have gone, hey, what the hell? The fact that he didn't go, hey, what the hell at any point is concerning. There was also a failure to secure weapons. And you can see there's firearms here that are just kind of left laying around. This is also, like, here we see a long gun just kind of leaned up against something. Here's one in a box just kind of left there. This is also stuff where if you're sitting there, you're seeing this, you'd be like, what the hell is going on? Yeah. Police photos confirm that guns were also stored loaded. This is another egregious safety violation by Gutierrez, Reed, and Zachary. Here in Canada, this would not just be a safety violation. This would be a criminal offense. And a criminal offense that would cost you your armorer's license and your, but you can see here, loaded. Yeah. And even the bandolier that Zachary gave to Baldwin, and which Baldwin was wearing on his body, contained live ammunition. Now, I mean, you see here, this is 5 live rounds, right? And I'm going, wouldn't you have noticed? Because the dummies should be rattling. They should be quite noticeably not. Yeah. See, isn't that long gun leaning against the safe? It looks like it. But I mean, all of this is stuff that Baldwin should have noticed and should have been aware of and should have been clear. Like, this is stuff that should have had Baldwin going, stop everything, and being like, if I see that there is live, like if I hear that there's a single live cartridge that's made it onto a movie set where I am present, I don't care how much they're paying me. I'm not touching a gun until I know that this is all clear. So specifically, the FBI report concluded that double-base smokeless powder, a propellant used in firearms, was identified in a cartridge taken from Baldwin's bandolier. So definitely live, Gutierrez, Reed, and Zachary negligently performed their duties in numerous other ways leading up to and during the morning of October 21st. Before loading a weapon, an armorer must check each round to ensure that it is a dummy round. And they should be doing this check with the person who's going to be handling that weapon. Like, this is where Baldwin should also be, right? He should also be here for this so that he is checking this as, as well. I see he was wearing live ammo when he shot her. Apparently. Yep. Just fine with that. So I saw a video of the incident as it was happening. The sound was off, but you could see that Baldwin had his finger on the trigger. Yep. First time he pulled it, nada. The second time his finger flexed. I mean, this is why you keep your finger off the trigger. It's real easy to flex your trigger there. So I see Logan Perkins saying, I have almost 300 hours in a chem lab. An unaccounted for drink is a stop the world event. Never mind a box of something directly dangerous. Yeah, it's just this. All of this should have been stop everything. Before loading a weapon, an armorer must check each round to ensure that it is a dummy round. Dummy rounds from afar look like regular ammunition, but they contain a small metal ball, a BB, inside of them. I cover this in that previous video that I've been mentioning repeatedly with the sort of naive person using the dummy rounds. Dummy rounds are distinguishable upon close visual examination by a trained professional or by a minimally trained, person. I'm not going to say, I was going to say idiot, but she's not an idiot. She's just, she's a smart person. She just never handled a gun, right? But somebody with no experience, with just a couple bit of training or like 5 minutes of education there, can distinguish this upon close visual examination or upon shaking. They should rattle. You don't have to be a trained professional to determine rattle versus doesn't rattle. You just have to have ears and a brain that is, not so small that it's like a walnut that's been stolen by a squirrel and hidden for the winter and rotted away. It is imperative that the armorer shake one dummy round at a time to ensure that each round rattles from the BB inside. On the other hand, if the armorer shakes multiple rounds at one time, the rattling could be coming from only one of the rounds. Gee, it would be a good thing for you to be, testing that. So, yeah. I see Rosie saying, does anyone know if Runkle speaks French? Je parle un peu de français, mais pas tellement bien. All right. FBI analysis confirms that Gutierrez Reed's fingerprints were on the ammunition box from which Baldwin's weapon was loaded. Before loading the gun, Gutierrez Reed claims that she only shook the ammunition box and heard a jingling sound, which is what a dummy round box should sound like. This is negligence right here. You check them each individually. I mean, Baldwin's not wrong when he points the finger at Gutierrez Reed, saying that she was an idiot, and is an idiot and belongs in jail if these are accurate. But like, he should also be checking. Gutierrez Reed further claims that she checked out each round individually before loading it into the chamber of Baldwin's prop gun. She concedes, however, that while checking, she noticed that one of the rounds lacked a hole in the casing and loaded it anyway. What the hell? Yet she did not remove the round, prevent the gun from being used in the subsequent scene, or alert anyone on set that the gun was unsafe. As the facts show, Gutierrez Reed failed to perform her job carefully, and as a result, a live round was loaded into the gun that she had negligently failed to identify. Now, here's the thing. If the actor is sitting there and is going along with the process, as numerous armorers have said that they do every time with the talent, with the actors, then he would have been like, wait, what the hell is with that one? It's not rattling. It doesn't have a hole in the casing. Maybe that shouldn't go in the gun. and that would have saved a life. But Baldwin didn't feel like it. Just didn't give a damn. So, in her interview with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office, Gutierrez-Reed said that before lunch on October 21st, she loaded Baldwin's gun with 5 dummy rounds. The 6th and final round would not go into the gun because the gun was dirty. This is another red flag. Why is the gun dirty on set? Like, yeah. These should have been maintained. After lunch, she cleaned the gun and put another round in, which brought the total to 6 rounds. She stated that the guns were checked on set. However, she admitted that she didn't really check the gun given to Baldwin too much because it had been locked up at lunch. Anytime you set a gun down and you leave it, you check it again. I check my guns before they go into my safe, and I check my guns when they come out of my safe to go to the range, and I check my guns when I get to the range. And you might say, oh, why all the excessive checking? Well, because, yeah. Yeah, and I see people, there's footage of Baldwin on other sets holding guns. Several of his movies had guns as part of the story, so there's no way he didn't know that he should be checking. He got lazy. Yep. He brags about his gun knowledge at points in the interview, and then at other points he pretends that he's clueless. It's ridiculous. The other thing is she's like the armor, right? And so part of her job is also to talk about like historical accuracy. And you know what historical accuracy is for this gun? You don't load 6. You load 5 and you have 1 empty chamber, and the hammer should be on the empty chamber. That's also like how people carried this particular gun because of, drop safety issues and so forth. So this is the proper way. This is like, as a gun guy, if I see that they've got 5 loaded, I'm like, yes, they've done that right. Load 1, skip 1, load 4, and then you're good. That's sort of how that goes. So I don't know why she's loading 6 in the first place. That just seems weird to me. All right. After the incident, Halls brought Gutierrez-Reed the gun. Why the heck are they now messing with the evidence after the incident? Like, at this point, this is evidence. She opened it up and noticed that one of the dummies had been discharged, which shouldn't be possible, right? She admitted to the sheriff that when she checked the gun, the projectile portion of the discharge round was gone. Gee, where did it go? Oh, right, into a person, actually into 2 people. So, yeah. She also said that it looked like a realistic bullet and that many of the dummies have a primer in the hole, but the discharge bullet did not. Gee, whose job was it to check? Oh, right, hers and Baldwin's. Although she said that she checked the other rounds, that each had a ringing sound when she shook it, which is indicative that it was a dummy, she admitted that the box of dummies, which was received approximately a week before from Kenny at PDQ, contained some wonky rounds, which is, again, a shut everything down. Like, yeah. She stated that there may have just been a bad round in the box and a bad armor and a bad actor. Gutierrez-Reed's admissions demonstrate her failure to properly check the gun, as well as Kenny's and PDQ's failure to supply only dummy ammunition. When the cast and crew returned from lunch and resumed preparations for rehearsal inside the church, Halls handed Baldwin the gun, which is a blatant safety violation on Baldwin's part. Blatant safety violation on Baldwin's part. Halls is not the armor. And so if anybody but the armor is trying to hand you the gun on a set, you say, where the is the armor? Who the F are you that you're handling a gun? Put that shit down, find the armorer, and they should be doing this. The fact that he takes the gun from Halls is negligent in and of itself. While handing the gun to Baldwin, Halls announced, "We have a cold gun on set." And Baldwin, when he's being handed a gun, should be saying, "Hey, I should be going over this with the armor. Armor should be showing this to me to be clear that it is, that this is empty." Cold gun is a widely accepted and significant term in the film and television industry. It refers to a firearm that has no blank rounds, let alone live rounds, loaded into the gun. The announcement of a cold gun is meant to assure all present that the gun has been properly checked for the absence of any ammunition other than dummy rounds, which contain no charge, by those responsible for ensuring its safety. Did you see anybody check? Did you insist on a check? Because anybody can shout a thing out, but if you're like, "Hey, did you check this? This is ridiculous." So, as Halls later admitted to script supervisor Mamie Mitchell before handing the gun to Baldwin, he checked the revolver drum and noticed that one round was different from the others, which is again a stop everything moment. But Baldwin should have been doing this check with whoever he's taking the gun from, and should have also noticed it. Mitchell claims that he noted that 5 of the bullets were marked and 1 was not. Although this account conflicts with Hall's own statement, it is apparent that Halls either failed to check the gun or failed to voice any concern about the red flag he observed when he checked it. And you yourself, Mr. Baldwin, failed to check the gun and failed to voice any concern about the red flag you observed when you were handed a gun by a guy who's not the armorer, and that you didn't go over checking it with that person. Either failure constitutes negligence, also applying to Baldwin, given that Halls was the safety coordinator on set and falsely announced to everyone that the gun was safe. Safety coordinator is not the armorer. There is no substitute for the armorer. When receiving the gun and relying on Hall's representation that it was cold, Baldwin did as he had always done and had been taught to do throughout his career, always without incident. Specifically, as described above, an actor cannot rule that a gun is safe, but should always insist on being shown that the gun is safe when they're being handed it. That is the responsibility of other people on the set, in this instant, Gutierrez, Reed, and Halls. If actors open their own gun on set to confirm the absence of live ammunition outside of the armorer's close supervision, that gun should be repossessed by the armorer and cleared again. Great, make them do it. Make them this would have been a hassle. It would have been such a hassle to do this safely. I mean, it's just easier to just clean up the blood afterwards. All that takes is a mop. F you, Baldwin. Just F you. To Baldwin's knowledge, several other actors on the Rust set followed the same process, relying on an appropriate crew member's representation that a gun was cold. You know who didn't? Jensen Ackles. Jensen Ackles was talking about how when he gets handed a gun, he points it at the ground and pulls the trigger 6 times to make sure it's clear. And you know what? That wouldn't have been super safe here, but it would have been a lot safer than pointing it at the camera woman and pulling the trigger, because that's what killed her. To Baldwin's knowledge, Baldwin does not have a gun license, is not a gun owner, and is not a professional weapons expert. If you don't know guns, don't freaking handle one on a set. You should, sorry, I am not competent to take this role. It involves guns. Either learn what you're doing if you're going to be handling deadly equipment, or F off. Those are your options. I don't care if you are the big, important, fancy talent. Learn what you are doing or F off. Those are your options. Baldwin, like Hutchins and others on set, reasonably placed his trust in the cross-defendants, experts that other people had hired to keep the set safe. Except you should have known that there was hinky shit going on here. You should have known because you were handed the gun by not the armorer, and because of all of these issues that you have described. So this is ridiculous. I've got a couple of super chats I'll say here or go through here. Mandalore Wise, thank you very much. Hot Load is pipe bomb in the making. The ammo company I used to work for had an issue with our pressure testing contractors that blew up 3 guns. Yep. And Kim Finley, thank you very much for the $10 super chat here. Much appreciated. I see. Let's get to 1,000 likes. Come on, everyone. Yep, absolutely. This is a good question. Stereophonics Mom is saying, why is there any ammo being used anymore when there's CGI? CGI cannot do as good of a job. You can't CGI recoil, and actors do a very bad job at simulating recoil when they're trying to, fake it. CGI also can't do certain scenes, like if this church is being done in sort of lower light and you're relying on the actual discharge flashes to provide like a flash of illumination. You can see this in certain films where, for instance, if you ever watch those scenes where there's like a dark hallway and it's being illuminated by the gunshots as they go. I think they do that in John Wick at points. I think they do that in some other movies. You just cannot replicate that with CGI. It can't be done. Basically, they use dummies and so forth because it works so much better. So yeah. And Stereophonics Mom saying, thank you. I know nothing about guns. Yeah, and I'm not judging, right? This is how we learn. This is how we educate something. Somebody was saying, should live ammo be on the thing? And the answer is no to everything except if you're doing something like Mythbusters. Live rounds on set are generally a stop everything now sign. And so on Mythbusters, for instance, let's say you were testing a myth about like, what happens when you shoot a pumpkin? I don't know that there's myths around that, but I'm just, if you need a live cartridge for that purpose, then I would basically have a locked safe with and you bring out one live cartridge each time, right? And that's going to be a very different kind of filming experience than something like this. On the Rust set, there was no reason for there to be any live ammo. And a single live cartridge making it onto the filming site should have been absolutely a shut everything down and, stop everything and figure out what's going on, right? This is just one of those safety failures that is just like, you have to resolve the cause of this before you can move any further, right? You just can't be like, oh yeah, we'll just keep going. It's like, hey, we're running a restaurant and we just found one cyanide poisoned cupcake. It's like, you got to check all the, you got to throw out all the cupcakes is really what it comes down to. So yeah. All right. When the cast and crew resumed work after lunch, Hutchins continued to evaluate her camera angle for the scene inside the church. In Baldwin's extensive experience, the cinematographer or director of photography on a film or television set has significant input into an actor's performance. While directors bear the ultimate responsibility for helping actors shape their performance, cinematographers have a similar responsibility as relates to what is or what is not in the composition of the frame. Hutchins therefore directed Baldwin accordingly. Okay, fair ball. This is useful for us to know. Baldwin was sitting in a church pew looking at Hutchins. Baldwin held the gun, which Halls had just announced was safe, in his hand. Hutchins was standing camera right, Baldwin's left, next to the camera operator and looking back and forth between Baldwin to her right and the camera operator's monitor to her left. She was trying to determine how best to angle the camera and what movements Baldwin should make for her to capture the cocked gun that the script called for. Baldwin asked Hutchins what she would like to see to prepare her camera angle for the scene. Baldwin pulled the gun out slowly without issue and held it still before Hutchins began giving any directions to him. Hutchins described what she would like Baldwin to do with the placement of the gun, which contained only dummy rounds, as far as everyone was told, and as far as you never bothered to check, you giant sack of pustulence. She directed Baldwin to hold the gun higher to a point where it was directed toward her, which is, on her end, a safety violation as well. She was looking carefully at the monitor and then at Baldwin and then back again as she gave these instructions. In giving and following these instructions, and Baldwin, that's a safety failure on his end, because Baldwin should be like, hey, that would point the gun at you. Like, let's redo this. In giving and following these instructions, Hutchins and Baldwin shared a core vital belief that the gun was cold and contained no live rounds. But you didn't actually check that. Like, your belief was based on the word of somebody who isn't even the armorer. It's just some dude who isn't in a position to tell you that. Hutchins would never have told Baldwin to point the gun in her direction, and Baldwin would never have done so if either believed there were no gun safety issues on set or cross-defendants had carelessly performed their jobs. Now, lots of people in the media have been reporting this line as like though it's definitive. And I'm going, you need to have some knowledge about what's going on, like what should be happening on a film set and what shouldn't, to realize just how screwed up this is. Ridiculous. Baldwin asked Hutchins whether she wanted to see him cock the gun, as the script required. She responded, yes. Baldwin tipped the gun down somewhat so that the lens of the camera would be able to focus on his hand's action on the top of the gun. While performing this action, Baldwin asked Hutchins, am I holding it too far down, and do you see that? Hutchins responded that she could see Baldwin's action from her angle. Baldwin then pulled back the hammer as was required by the script, but not far enough to actually cock the gun. He also had his finger on the trigger because he is a moron. Yeah. When Baldwin let go of the hammer, the gun went off. As later became known, a live bullet discharged from the gun and struck Hutchins, traveling through her body and striking Souza in the shoulder. Both Hutchins and Souza fell to the ground. Immediately following the discharge, a sense of panic and confusion descended upon the Rust set. No one understood what had happened. Baldwin and others on the scene were ordered to leave the set as medics began to render aid to Hutchins and Souza. And you know what I'm sure his thoughts were at this point? Oh my, I hope that this doesn't affect my career, because he's a piece of garbage. I mean, that's my take on things. But outside the church, Baldwin and others began to talk to each other to try to piece together what had just happened. Baldwin thought Hutchins may have fainted or had a heart attack. He was also confused about why Souza was screaming in pain, unaware that a live bullet had struck him. If you thought that she fainted or had a heart attack after the gun went off in your freaking hand, yeah. One individual suggested that a stone might have been lodged in the gun and discharged. Gee, it would have been nice if you checked the gun, with the armor. TM says, I wonder if there was a bullet in the barrel and a blank fired the bullet, just like Brendan Lee. No, we know that is not what happened. A live cartridge was fired. I see he thought she had a heart attack. Yeah, the kind of heart attack where you are covered in blood. Like, this just doesn't make any sense to me. You get shot, you're going to be bleeding. Another individual suggested that a live round might have been in the gun, but the idea was quickly dismissed by others as far-fetched, as two different crew members, Gutierrez, Reed, and Halls, were responsible for checking the guns on set to confirm the absence of live ammunition. 3 people were responsible. 3. You have responsibility too. You are handling the gun. At this time, Mitchell approached Baldwin and said, you realize you're not responsible for any of what happened in there, don't you? Yet Mitchell is now suing Baldwin in this action. I mean, people say stupid things, but that doesn't mean that you're not responsible. And they can learn things about your degree of responsibility, like that you didn't check the gun before you accepted it from a person who was not the armorer, because you're an idiot. A dangerous idiot, as it turns out. After some time, a helicopter arrived and transported Hutchins to the hospital. Souza was taken to the hospital by ambulance. Law enforcement had also arrived on the scene and began speaking with those who were involved in the incident. Now, here we're going to get to a point where Baldwin and I have a very different, take on things that happened. I mean, we're seeing that, at different points. How many bullets fired? 3 people hit. 2 people were hit with 1 bullet. Yeah. Wouldn't he have felt any recoil? He absolutely would have. So, like the notion that that he still believed that it was a cold gun and that she'd had a heart attack is just completely ridiculous. Um, yeah. See, yeah, her heart did get attacked by a bullet. Yeah. Or Baldwin could just be lying about what was said. After all, he is being sued by the same guy who told him it's not your fault, man. Yeah. Um, so Baldwin willingly sat for an interview with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office for nearly 2 hours, declining their invitation to have a lawyer present because he has nothing to hide. Any other person who is not a Baldwin, who is not, wealthy and well, if you ever find yourself saying, I spoke to the police because I have nothing to hide, normally that ends with you in a jail cell. There is no, I spoke to the police because I have nothing to hide. There's, I spoke to the police because I am a moron that the wind whistles through my ears as it, travels through with nothing to get in its way from one ear to the other. Yeah. And also, like, just the same way that having a lawyer present is not something that should ever be like considered by the court. And, this whole thing of I didn't have a lawyer present should equally not be considered by the court. He has continued to cooperate with the sheriff's office and district attorney in the hope that they get to the truth of what actually transpired. Oh, how long did it take you to turn over your phone? That was super cooperative there, dude. Who brought live ammunition on the set? Who put it in the gun? And why the experts who were hired to check the gun did not detect the bullet? And why the actor who should have been also checking the gun with the experts did not detect, bother with that? And why the actor accepted a gun from somebody who wasn't the armor? These are also questions that should be asked. At the conclusion of his initial interview with the sheriff's office, Baldwin's interviewer slid her phone across the table and showed him a photograph of the object that had just been removed from Sousa's shoulder at the hospital, a 45 caliber slug. A bullet, actually, but yeah. Baldwin recognized the object as a live bullet, and he finally began to comprehend what had transpired on the set of Rust that day. Not very quick, are you, Mr. Baldwin? I mean, is your argument that you're kind of dumb? I can agree with that. You're dangerously stupid. In his mind, it was outside the realm of all possibility the live bullet could have been present on the ranch property or on the prop truck, let alone in the gun itself, a gun declared cold by a person with responsibility for checking it. And yet the unthinkable had happened. You just assumed that there would be no, that there would be no issue. But this is why these checks happen, right? Sousa was treated at the hospital and recovered. Tragically, Hutchins died of her injuries. All right. Yeah, he cooperated, so they had to get a court order to get his phone and data. Yep. So, yeah. Deanna's asking, have you seen the footage, Runkle of the Bailey? It doesn't show her getting shot, but rather focused on him and shows what the camera saw. Yep, it also shows his finger is on the trigger. Keep your booger hook off of the bang switch is basic safety training. What is it? Yeah. Events after October 21st, 2021. In the months since Hutchins' tragic death, substantial law enforcement and investigatory resources have been spent to determine exactly what went wrong. You shot a woman. That's where we start. The investigation has not resolved the exact chain of events, but it has brought to light numerous safety lapses that contributed to the environment that allowed this tragedy to happen. And you're one of them, dude. You are one of those safety lapses, walking around and, being a problem. New Mexico's Occupational Health and Safety Bureau found that the Rust set had numerous safety violations and specifically noted Hall's and Zachary's failure to enforce the safety standards as required on set. Safety bulletins, which describe various safety protocols and procedures, were supposed to be attached to the call sheets distributed daily. But emails show that the safety bulletins were not regularly attached to the call sheets, a fact which Halls conceded in his interview with the OHSB. As such, no one was regularly apprising Rust's crew and staff of safety precautions. As safety coordinator, this responsibility fell to Halls. This is another thing Baldwin would have noticed. Like, this is another thing he should have noticed. So when he's pretending like, I had no idea what was going on. Well, did you not notice that you weren't getting those? Mr. I am super safety conscious and Mr. I have been on film sets for 42 years. Didn't notice, huh? Okay. I see the armor was on set, just not outside the little church where they were rehearsing. If you are going to be taking a firearm, it should be from the armor and no other person. Some other person tries to hand you a gun on a film set. You say, who the F are you and where's the armor? So I don't know where they are. Like, doesn't matter where the armor is, so long as they're not there, it is a major problem there. Vaughn says, I would bet serious money that if Runkle was the armor, this would not have happened. No kidding. Because if I find a single live cartridge in my in the ammunition that comes in there, we are stopping everything. And if they want to keep going, I'm not the armor anymore. I'm taking the guns and I'm leaving. What is it? He also should have noticed and listened to all the people that quit because of this mess of the set. Well, he says that they quit for mysterious reasons that he never inquired into, even though he's a producer on this. And I mean, that seems super plausible. Yeah. As safety coordinator, Halls was also supposed to hold safety meetings every single day that a firearm was to be used on the Rust set. But interviews by the OHSB discovered that Hall did not do so. Text messages to Halls, which show that he had to be reminded multiple times of this responsibility, confirm as much. Gee, did you not notice that you weren't having safety meetings? Did you not, like, was that not something that, that you didn't notice, Baldwin? Somebody's asking, will Baldwin see jail time? I'm going to bet that he doesn't. He should. He should absolutely see jail time. But quite frankly, I think that because he's got money and name recognition, I think he's going to be able to weasel his way out of this and try to rebuild his career. And, if you ever see this guy at, a signing or something like that, just remind him that he killed a woman. Just, and you'll get thrown out. They will absolutely throw you out for that. But, yeah, I see he's going to OJ it. Yeah. And, yeah. Any film set that lets Baldwin handle a gun from now on is ridiculous. It is just insane. All right. It has also been discovered that Zachary harbored serious reservations regarding Gutierrez Reed's performance, including regarding her alcohol use away from set. Zachary did not air these concerns until after the fatal shooting. And you see the comments here from Sarah Zachary to Seth Kenny. I think she was so drunk that she didn't know she brought live ammunition onto the truck when she went to go get a gun from the safe. And I told you Hannah was blackout drunk last weekend, right? I am sorry. If I am the armor on a film thing, I am not touching alcohol from the moment we start doing things for the film to the moment the film is wrapped. I am just not touching anything whatsoever. This is ridiculous. In interviews with police investigators, Zachary also noted that she was aware that Gutierrez Reed was using marijuana in her free time off set. I'm here in Canada. I got no beef with people wanting to use marijuana. I mean, in fact, I occasionally partake myself because I got a bad back and sometimes it helps me sleep. But you don't mix that with guns. You do not mix drugs and alcohol and firearms under any circumstances. Yeah. I see. Didn't Baldwin settle with the husband by giving him a job in production? Yeah. The settlement basically provides all sorts of things for the husband in order that they can still get this movie done. It is ridiculous. I see. If they were so concerned, why not speak up before there was an issue? Because these people are all a bunch of jackasses and they're all negligent and they're all, every single one of these people who's mentioned should probably be, assuming that these allegations are accurate, every single person here should be in a cell. And it should all be the same cell. And it should be as small as they can make it. Yeah. The FBI has also tested the bullets on set. As alleged above, dozens of them were found to be live ammunition. Under Rust Productions' contract with the Bonanza Creek Ranch property owner, however, live ammunition was banned from the set. As a matter of law, under no circumstances were live bullets to have been brought to the set or even on the property, and Baldwin had no reason to believe that they had. But he also did no checking and so forth. The FBI tested numerous cartridges on set and identified smokeless powder, an explosive, in many of them. The FBI also found Gutierrez Reed's fingerprints on an ammunition box containing live ammunition. I like how he redacted out his birthday here. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, just this indicates that she was found on P8 and P11. To make matters worse, it turns out that the gun given to Baldwin to use on the Rust set was in poor condition. This is actually BS. I'm going to explain why this is bullshit. But during the FBI's accidental discharge testing of the gun, portions of the trigger sear and cylinder stopped fractured while the hammer was struck. The fracture of these internal components allowed the hammer to fall and the firing pin to detonate the primer. Notably, that was the only successful discharge of a bullet while testing the gun, which the FBI could not get to fire even while pulling the trigger because of various problems with the weapon that Kenny negligently supplied. I actually thought that the FBI report said that this was the only discharge that they could get when they weren't pulling the trigger, but also the note about the portions of the trigger sear and cylinder stop fractured while the hammer was struck. They test these things to failure. That is how these testing things go. Like, yes, of course they break it. Like, that is part of how this testing goes, is they're going to hit it with the hammer until it breaks. But the FBI was the testing they were doing is to see if they could get it to fire without pulling the trigger, which they found that they couldn't do. It fired just fine when you pull the trigger, as seen by, the whole fatality thing. But like literally they were hitting the gun's hammer with another hammer repeatedly until it broke. And in fact, if you hit a gun with a hammer, eventually it will break. This doesn't indicate that it's in poor condition. It just indicates that you are hitting something with a hammer. My skull is just fine, but if you smack it enough with a hammer, it'll fracture and I will suffer consequences. Like, yeah, I'm just so annoyed by this. The Rust film had numerous scenes in which the actors engaged in shootouts. As alleged above, for example, the script of the scene Baldwin was rehearsing in the church ended with Colts exploding. Baldwin himself and numerous others on set could have been in the crossfire of live bullets had that scene played out. There are other catastrophic possibilities. In fact, Jensen Ackles was going to get shot in that scene, from what I understand, and is really glad that he didn't. While also, I'm sure, dealing with some tremendous survivor's guilt, because I also suspect that some part of him is going, why not me instead of her? There are still images from the Rust filming where actor Travis Fimmel is pressing a cocked gun with his finger on the trigger to the back of Brady Noon's head. Clearly, both believed the set was safe and cross-defendants had performed their jobs professionally and competently. Surely, neither would have acted the scene if they knew dozens of live rounds were scattered across the set and the guns Kenny and PDQ supplied were prone to breaking. Cross-defendants' recklessness put everyone in danger. Yeah, when you think about this, these scenes are real awkward now, right? But I also wonder if this guy here didn't insist on checking the gun first. Because if he did, then he's behaving way more appropriately. Now I'm just going to get to something that just like, why would you put this in writing? And I'm just going to cover a super chat here first. Excuse me, keep your booger hook off the trigger hook. Never in my 61 years have I heard it called a booger hook. It's sort of a gun owner's saying there. Yeah, my dad whooped my ass when I point a gun or cap gun at him. You just don't do that simply. Yeah. Because Jensen is a good guy. He talks about his guilt often. He still goes to cons for Supernatural. If I ever run into him at a convention, and I go to conventions sometimes, although not specifically for Supernatural, I'd probably be looking to shake his hand going, you know what? You're a much better person than Baldwin ever was. So, yeah. The negligence of Gutierrez, Reed, Halls, Kenny, PDQ, and Zachary has caused Baldwin substantial harm. Oh, Muffin. Yeah. Isn't that so much worse? Like, I feel like this takes some real gall to talk about the harm you've suffered here. So, over the last year, Baldwin has suffered substantial damage as a result of the events on October 21st. Good. You deserve it. He has suffered physically and emotionally from the grief caused by these events, which you deserve because you are at fault in them. Not a day goes by that he doesn't think about and suffer from the events happened that day. Good. You should. This should cause you misery. You behaved negligently from what we see in your own filings, and that was a cause. There's multiple causes, but that was a cause of a woman's death. Suffer. Like, I got zero sympathy. I got negative sympathy. I got, so yeah. Caused by these events. You can at least say that you shot her, dude. Like, you shot her. And own that, right? Like, even if you're saying that it's an accident and it's other people's fault and whatever else, like, don't make this happen, or don't describe this like you just happen to be there. This is written like a police press release where they're like, police chased a person and there was a discharge of firearms resulting in the death of the suspect. Where they're never like, we shot them. Like, just put that in there. So yeah, this is just, yeah. Baldwin has also lost numerous job opportunities and associated income. For example, he's been fired from multiple jobs expressly because of the incident on Rust and has been passed over for other opportunities, which is a direct result of the negligence of cross-defendants Gutierrez, Reed, Halls, Kenny, PDQ, and Zachary, and your own damn negligence. Baldwin, you deserve to never work again. I would not hire you to work at, a car wash, because I wouldn't trust you to keep your finger off the trigger of the spray gun, let alone a real gun. So good that you lost numerous job opportunities. You should not work again. You narcissistic sack of, discount sausage meat. Like, just yeah. Okay. So now we're getting into causes of action. Negligence against all cross defendants. So Baldwin repeats and realleges each and every allegation set forth above and incorporates them by reference. Thank God he's not going to repeat them manually. So, yeah, I see Baldwin is worse than canned chicken. If you open up Baldwin's skull, it's a canned chicken in there. That's what he's got going on in there. Is it's just a canned chicken. And every time he tilts his head, it sloshes and changes shape. It is, yeah, that's yeah. See, you lost jobs because you acted dangerously and someone died because of your actions. Oh no, won't someone please think of Baldwin? Yeah. um So, Gutierrez, Reed, Halls, Kenny, PDQ, and Zachary are all professionals who have experience working with live and dummy ammunition, firearms, and movie props. And so are you. You, in fact, brag about this in your police interview. The one you gave because you have nothing to hide between your ears. Cross defendants are all professionals who were hired to source dummy ammunition. Gutierrez and Zachary supply dummy ammunition, Kenny and PDQ. Check the weapons and ammunition on set to ensure that no live ammunition was brought to the set or loaded into the weapons. Gutierrez Reed. Ensure the safety and proper organization of the props, Zachary. And coordinate and ensure the overall safety of the movie set, Halls. Each cross defendant understood that they were being hired to provide their professional services consistent with the standards of safety governing their profession. Right. You also had a responsibility to check the gun, dude. Cross defendants owed the duty to comport themselves in accordance with the standard of conduct of trained safety personnel on a movie set. Also, that is accurate. Cross defendants' conduct fell far below the duty of care governing their roles and responsibility on the set of Rust. That also seems to be accurate. Gutierrez Reed was the armorer for the Rust production, whose responsibility was to ensure the safe and secure use and storage of weapons and ammunition on set. Gutierrez Reed breached her duty as an armorer in myriad ways alleged above, including her inadequate inquiry as to the source of the ammunition she was loading into Baldwin's weapon, her failure to confirm that the ammunition she loaded into the gun was actually dummy ammunition, and your failure to confirm that as well, and her disorganized storage of ammunition around the prop cart and prop truck that made an intermingling of real and dummy ammunition possible, which led to live ammunition being loaded into Baldwin's weapon on October 21st, 2021, which you had no problem with right up until you actually, lost some job opportunities. Not so much, that a woman died, but you really care about those lost job opportunities. I see people saying, no canned chicken. All right, we'll move on past the canned chicken. They had her doing a second job on that set, but I can't remember what it was. They had her also doing props. And in fact, they said that she needed to spend more time on props and less time on armorer duties. So, yeah. All right. Halls was the assistant director for the Rust production, who was also responsible for set safety and handling guns on set. Nobody should be responsible for handling guns on set, other than the armor. And you should have known that, and you should have freaked out about that. Halls breached his duty as assistant director in numerous ways, including by either failing to adequately check the chamber of the weapon or failing to raise any concerns as to what he saw, and proceeding to declare a gun cold despite any assurance that it was in fact cold, which led to live ammunition being loaded into Baldwin's weapon on October 21st, 2021. Halls also breached his duty of care by neglecting his duties as safety coordinator and failing to hold the required safety briefings and to distribute the necessary safety protocols. I'm just like, sorry, dude, you should have been insisting that this get loaded in front of you. Oh, well, this guy already preloaded it and we'd have to get the armor out here to redo it if we check it. Good. Like, get the armor out there, recheck it. Like, this whole thing of it would have been a hassle to not kill somebody. You go through the hassle. You do it to not kill somebody. Just maddening. Kenny was the armor assistant and / armor mentor for the Rust production and the supplier of the weapons and ammunition for the set. He owns PDQ, which supplied the ammunition to the Rust set, and Kenny breached his duty by introducing live ammunition on the Rust set through the disorder of his supply shop, PDQ, and the intermingling of live and dummy ammunition, despite a clear directive that no live ammunition should ever be on the Rust movie set, which led to live ammunition being loaded into Baldwin's weapon on October 21st, 2021. Jail. Like, I agree, that dude should be in jail. I agree that lots of people should be in jail. But Baldwin doesn't get to write himself out of this story. Zachary was the props master for the Rust production, who was ultimately responsible for all the props on set are used on set, including the guns. No, the armorer is ultimately responsible for the guns. As with Gutierrez-Reed, Zachary breached her duty as props master by, among other things, failing to ensure the safety and security of the weapons and ammunition used on the Rust set, and failing to adequately maintain the props cart and props truck, which led to live ammunition being loaded into Baldwin's weapon on October 21. Zachary also breached her duty by failing to report the errant and erratic behavior of Gutierrez-Reed, as would be required of somebody in the position of props master. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Zachary has her own jail cell, should be waiting for her, get her in there. As a direct, proximate, and foreseeable result of Gutierrez-Reed's, Hall's, Kenny's, PDQ's, and Zachary's breaches of their respective duties, Baldwin has suffered substantial damages and will continue to suffer damages in the future, including physical and emotional injury, missed income from lost business opportunities, and other financial damage. What physical injury did you suffer? Are you going to talk about you've got a sore wrist or something? I'm pretty sure if he's got a sore wrist, it's a pre-existing wanker injury. But, God. Yeah. I see. How about they just have Reed do her job full time and this would not have happened? If Reed was any good at her job, this wouldn't have happened. So, yeah. I see this nonsense needs to be made into a movie. Yeah. I don't think it will, but they absolutely should have. So, Baldwin was a producer and actor on the set. He should have known the safety meetings were not being held. Yep, that should have been enough to get him looking into things since he wasn't attending them. Kind of tells you how he usually deals with firearms on set. Yeah, there was all sorts of moments where he should have been like, what the heck? So, second cause of action, equitable indemnification. So he wants to the extent that he owes money, he thinks that the other people should pay it. All right. Baldwin repeats and realleges each and every allegation set forth above and incorporates them by reference here. As alleged above, cross-defendants were obligated to ensure the safe handling and management of firearms on the Rust set. Cross-defendants did not ensure the safe handling and management of firearms on the Rust set. On the contrary, they left live ammunition in disarray and ultimately delivered a firearm to Baldwin that was loaded, resulting in Hutchins' death. Gee, Mr. Baldwin, I wonder if it was possible that you might have noticed that, at all of the points where you clearly had to have noticed it. Yeah. As a result of defendant's misconduct, Baldwin has substantial damages and will continue to suffer damages in the future. Baldwin is entitled to equitable indemnification from cross-defendants for his damages, including any damages arising out of Plaintiff Mitchell's claims in this lawsuit. Third cause of action, equitable contribution. So he wants them to pay, a part of things because, and you know what? Contribution makes sense here to say, like, I'm not the only person who screwed up here. That's a fair claim, to say, like, listen, I screwed up, but so did these other people. Fair, like that's, yeah. Baldwin repeats and realleges each and every allegation set forth above and incorporates them by reference here. Excellent. That we're getting towards the end here, folks, so that is good. As alleged above, cross-defendants were obligated to ensure the safe handling and management of firearms on the Rust set. You are also obligated to ensure the safe handling and management of any firearm you touch. There is no excuse. There is no, I'm just the talent. If you are not sufficiently competent to go over like the check to make sure that the gun is unloaded, then get the hell away from guns. I don't see that there's any excuse for this. If you don't want to be a person who knows guns well enough to handle this, then don't do Westerns. Don't do action movies that involve guns. Do whatever. If you cannot be safe, then do not ever hold a gun in your hand. And I will say, I have taken people to the range, brought people out to the range going, hey, you're a newbie, let's go shooting. And I've had moments where I bring them out there and we go through the safety briefing and I say, great, let's get back in the car. We're going home. And they go, what? But I haven't shot yet. And I'm like, and you're not going to, because you're not paying attention in the safety briefings. I'm not confident that you are going to be safe to handle a firearm. We're not doing this. You go home. And I've also had situations where I brought people out and they've listened to the safety briefings and listened to where I'm talking about how there is both legal responsibility every time you pick up a gun, as well as a moral and ethical responsibility. And I have had people get to the range, listen to that, listen to the safety briefings and say, I don't think I want to touch a gun. I don't think I don't want to accept that responsibility. And that's cool too. No judgment, right? It's like, cool. Okay. Off we go. Because, that's a judgment people, I'm never going to fault somebody for making that call for themselves that they don't feel that they should handle a firearm. Great. If you are, in that, if that's your thoughts, then I'd rather you didn't. Baldwin should never have handled a gun if he was unwilling to learn about this and so forth. So, yeah. Yeah. All right. I see Runkle bores people into not shooting. I mean, it isn't, I don't think they're bored into not shooting, but just if you're just saying, hey, I don't feel comfortable, after I warn them, hey, listen, this is a big deal, then that's their call. All right. So, cross defendants did not ensure the safe handling and management of firearms on the Rust set. On the contrary, they left live ammunition in disarray and ultimately delivered a firearm to Baldwin that was loaded, resulting in Hutchins' death. And I mean, this guy is saying, hey, listen, if I am, like, how does he not see some of this stuff going on as it's happening? Yeah. I also see Martin saying, I find girls listen better than men sometimes when taking someone shooting for the first time. I actually find this as well. A lot of the time, if I bring a mixed group of men and women shooting, often the women will outshoot the guys because they actually pay attention when you talk about things like sight picture and stance. Whereas the guys are like, I have testosterone. I'm naturally going to be a good shot. And it's always hilarious when this happens. Because, I see, isn't Runkle a Canadian lawyer? You bet I am. I'm talking about this sort of from a Canadian perspective, but also from a decent human being perspective on this. So, all right. As a result of defendant's misconduct, Baldwin has substantial damages and will continue to suffer damages in the future. Good. Baldwin is entitled to equitable contribution from cross-defendants for his damages, including any damages arising out of Plaintiff Mitchell's claims in this lawsuit. So he is now making his prayer for relief, which is basically just what you want. Like, this is my Christmas list, courthouse. Judge, this is what I want. So they want compensatory, nominal, statutory, and punitive damages where applicable to cross-complainant in an amount to be determined at trial, including any damages arising out of Plaintiff Mitchell's claims in this lawsuit. Baldwin wants to make a profit on this shooting. Is like, he wants to, he's saying, I want to walk away with money. And he's saying he wants to cover his damages. So he's saying he won't be ahead, but screw you from the bottom of my heart. If there is a hell, they will have to invent a new wing just for this level of audacious bullshit. They're going to be sitting there running around going, we don't have pitchforks sharp enough or pitch hot enough for this BS. Yeah. Awarding reasonable litigation expenses, attorney's fees, and expert fees to cross-complainant. Awarding pre- and post-judgment interest to the extent allowable. And awarding such other and future relief as the court deems reasonable and just. Just relief would be that you get a kick in the face. Like, this would be just release, or just, relief. And I don't mean literally. I mean in the metaphorical sense of the court just going, Mr. Baldwin, it is now time to just go to town on you. Like, so yeah. He demands a trial by jury of all issues so triable. I am really hoping he testifies at that trial, because I am betting that his narcissism is really gonna show. And I think that that is something that a jury is just gonna look at and is going to be like, what the actual hell? I see Alec is responsible, but he isn't alone in that responsibility. Just my opinion. I agree with this 100%. Like, this is the point. Lots of people have said, don't you think that, the armorer is responsible? Yes. Don't you think that Dave, that Halls is responsible? Yes. Don't you think that Seth Kenny is responsible? Still, yes. Like, all of these people are responsible. You can have more than one person who's responsible for something, and they can all end up on the hook. And this makes me so angry, and I'm just like, why would you file this? Why would you, like, this is offensive, this is obnoxious. And I see somebody saying, as a matter of fact, Baldwin is against gun ownership. As a matter of fact, he thinks it should be abolished for everyone except him. I mean, he thinks he's the guy who should be able to film a Western. And I kind of think the opposite. Baldwin is the least qualified person to handle a firearm, including on that. And Cheryl C. is requesting punitive damages as well, so he wants to be ahead, not just break even. What a complete... I mean, this just makes me angry. And if I was the prosecutor, I would be thinking, you know what? This settles it. Let's charge him. I would be going to town, because quite frankly, this guy is remorseless. He says he suffers tremendous grief. This is not the action of somebody who's suffering from tremendous grief. This is the action of somebody who has, no, it's infuriating. I just can't imagine being in the place he's at right now mentally, that you think that this is a good idea. I see. Do you think they haven't laid criminal charges due to waiting to see what comes out of the civil suits? I think that they're trying to figure out how much money they can get together and whether they can make something stick. So I hope that they can actually land something on Baldwin. I don't think that they can. That is the unfortunate shame on this, is that I think that Baldwin's going to walk. I just hope that people on a regular basis remind Baldwin that he killed a woman and it didn't have to happen. All that had to happen is that he just, when the armorer says, hey, let's check the gun, like, he should have done that. I say, do you think the lawyer actually believes in this case? I think he believes in it every time the check clears. I think he deeply believes that this case is going to buy him a yacht. I think he deeply believes that this case is going to, put his kids through college. Beyond that, I don't know. Right. But it's... I see just that Baldwin wants to make money on this is epic disgusting. I mean, what is going to be really disgusting is you're going to see Baldwin marketing the Rust movie as if it's some sort of freaking memorial to the woman he shot and killed, when really the proper memorial would have been to just say, you know what? we're gonna, out of respect, just not make this, especially given that the plot involves an accidental killing. Like, how galling do you have to be? I hope he gets savaged in like in the reviews and so forth, as people go, where do you get off doing this? Where do you, like, how dare you, sir? Just absolutely ridiculous. Like, I am a gun owner. I am a proponent of firearm rights and so forth, but I'm also a proponent of firearm responsibility. And I'm a proponent of being reasonable with firearms, and that you got to be, yeah. This, from beginning to end, all of these people should never work again in their lives, at least in this profession. I got no problem if they end up at Burger King. I got no problem if they end up in an office building, moving paper around. Hell, become lawyers, whatever it is. But, something where you're not, maybe not lawyers, nothing where your negligence is going to, harm somebody. So, you know what? Maybe not food service either. I don't know. Maybe they could get employment as a shelf. That, I think, is really the level of competence that we are seeing from all of these people. But yeah, I would very much, I don't plan to see anything Baldwin is in ever again if it in any way provides a single dollar to Baldwin. I just can't support this kind of, I can't support somebody who is like this. And I am just so upset there. I see Love Dreaming Peach is saying, did I see the super chat? Yes, we'll get to the super chats here in just a second here. So Sky Blue, thank you very much. One of my favorite YouTube lawyers. I learned so much from you. Well, thank you very much. That's really what I'm here for, is I love sort of the legal education aspects. Cop reports are written in the exonerative tense. Yeah, they're always talking about, like, hey, somebody got shot by some means that's accidental. Baldwin never actually says that he shot and killed a woman anywhere in this. He just talks about it, it happened, like he wasn't there. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Trials of the Century. Can you guys do Casey Anthony, Chepakhitic? I think I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'll have to look at those ones. I'm not certain. I kind of want to cover Burke and Hare as my next one. That's kind of where I'm thinking I'm going to go, but we might have to look into Casey Anthony. We've got a lot of requests for that and so forth. So I'll have to consider that one. Yeah, it's tough. We know that the armorer was inexperienced. This was her second film as an armorer. She got the job because her dad is famous in the industry, not really on earned merit. Her dad is probably not wanting to, be seen in public with her at this point. Because so that's just, that's just nuts. Hannah Gutierrez talked about not learning anything from her father, Thel Reed, and that's probably the nicest thing she could have done from. Yes. I didn't learn anything from my dad is like just such an absolutely ridiculously idiotic comment to make for an armorer, because her dad is famous in the industry and does not have any sort of issues like this going on. Like, how would you brag about, I didn't learn anything from my expert father on this? Like, and she also talks about how, how proud she is that, she's like, there's not many women in the industry. And it's like, well, the other women in the industry certainly aren't happy about your work. So, yeah. Also, people talking about the recording of Alec Baldwin talking to his daughter. It's freaking disgusting. And I don't recommend listening to it because it just will make you want to punch everything. I see Chicken Head. Please look into the pig farmer. I've gotten 2 different stories. The one out of BC. That one is complicated. So, yeah. Yeah, Alec Baldwin saying to his daughter, "You were a rude, thoughtless little pig." That's so disgusting, right? Who talks to their family like that? So, yeah. He's suffering from tremendous ego. Absolutely. It's ridiculous. So, at any rate, yeah, this one is this is so maddening. It's so frustrating. And when I initially read this, I thought, oh yeah, I'll just make a video about this and put that out there and so forth. And then I was like, I got to do this as a live stream because I feel like you've got to properly convey the level of disgust that I have for this guy. So yeah, I guess sort of any last questions in the chat here, we'll just check there, and if not, I will wrap this up and see you guys next time. I'm still working on a video on the case of Stinchcombe, which you guys should check out once it comes out, because this is a really critical video or really critical case in Canada, talking about essentially your right to know the evidence against you. It is a set, and there's a lot of fuckery that goes on behind the scenes on that one. So a lot. I actually covered Stinchcombe in law school, but until I was going to do a video on it and started doing more research, I didn't realize just how much fuckery was involved in it. So I'm going to be talking about that because it's a real big one. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. I also want to I don't think I've done a video reviewing the Jensen Ackles interview. So I want to do that as well and talk about just how much Jensen Ackles is a better human being than Baldwin. So, all right. Thank you guys, and see you next time.